Welcome everyone to this Vulval Pain Society live Q&A about an exciting new clinical trial. Could there possibly be a new medication to treat vulvodynia? Thank you for joining us live now or on the replay. Please say hello in the comments if you can see and hear me okay. I can't see you, but if you can see and hear me okay, please say hello in the comments so that I know that you can see us. Brilliant. Okay, lovely. I can see a few comments. I can see 27 of you are on Facebook, and there'll be more of you on, I can see a few of you on YouTube too. Wonderful, lovely. Thank you so much. Listen, as we go along, who am I? If you don't know who I am, I'm Sharon Goulbear, Vulval Pain Society trustee, pain therapist, clinician coach, and pain science educator. Listen, we welcome your comments as we go along. If you see my eyes darting around, I've got an eye on the comments and an eye on what's happening in the studio as well. We don't have anyone else in the background, but we have a really exciting guest today. Really excited about this trial. Now, alongside me, I have my fellow Vulval Pain Society trustee, consultant anesthesia and pain medicine, now retired, but yet very much on it when it comes to vulval pain. Hello, Dr. Winston de Mello.
Nice to be with you.
How are you doing?
Very well, and very excited about today's podcast.
Yeah, it's going to be good. Now, we've already collected some questions, and we know there'll be live questions coming in too. Before we meet Dr. John Connell, could you talk us through, Winston, what options there are currently for people who experience provoked vulvodynia in terms of medication? What is there at the moment?
Well, currently we've got a choice between the antidepressants, like the tricyclic antidepressants, amitriptyline, nortriptyline. We've got the anticonvulsants like pregabalin or gabapentin, and then we've got the other sort of antidepressant groups of compounds that can be used in individual patients. But those two, the tricyclics and the anticonvulsants, are probably the most common. However, they're not suitable for everyone. And when I got hear of this new potential drug, I was excited because I wanted to see what its pharmacological background was, how was it going to work, have we got a drug like it in the market. And the more I read, the more I was sort of got more and more excited, because it takes a long time for a drug to come onto the market. You know, by the time you do clinical trials, safety trials, all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that this drug will be another potential use for this very sad condition, and which affects so many women. So the more you have, the more likely you are to have a specific tailor-made therapy rather than one size fits all. So that's why I'm excited.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, without further ado, shall we welcome our guest, Dr. John Connell, Chief Scientific Officer at MAC Clinical Research. We'll find out more about what MAC means. Dr. John, nice to welcome you. Thank you so much for doing this. How are you?
I'm very good. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about this particular molecule, but also how it can perhaps make a difference to people who suffer from this condition. So I'm interested to tell you about it, and more interested to see what questions come through as well.
Absolutely. I know you have a short presentation for us, and before we dive into that and the Q&A, and there will be questions coming in, could you just tell us a little bit more about yourself? I think you're going to be covering who MAC are, but tell us about yourself and your role.
Yeah, the presentation will cover MAC, who's sponsoring the study, and what we're looking to achieve in it. And myself, I've been nearly 40 years in the industry now, always working in the early phase. That's when drugs go into man for the first time. My particular interest from a scientific perspective is how to try to accelerate the best medicines forward. And we see many, many target candidates coming through in our industry, which are promising, but how can you really sort of get the best ones moving forward quickly, and also remove ones that are going to have no benefit down the line? And it's been a very interesting career and good fun. And I could talk for hours about that, but we should perhaps talk about this.
Should we dive into the presentation and then we can go into the Q&A?
It will be quite short. I've put together a few slides which I think will give you background on the companies involved and what we're looking to achieve in this study.
Perfect. Let's do that. We're on slide 10 at the moment. Let's just whiz back. Spoiler alert.
Well, the good news is you've seen we've only got 10 slides, so there you go. That's good at least. As Sharon's already mentioned, I work for MAC Clinical Research. You may not have heard of us. We're a very small independent research company located across the UK. We're actually contracted by pharmaceutical companies to help them with their clinical development. We'll give them advice, we'll help design protocols and studies, but more importantly, we will execute them at our 10 facilities. We have a number of centres, and these centres, see my little map here, are really across the whole of the north of England. I think our furthest south one is near Birmingham, and we go up as far as Glasgow, actually, now I should say the UK, shouldn't I, because we're in Scotland now as well. And each of those centres are involved in research on patient groups. And for this particular study, we'll be focusing mainly on the Blackpool and on 2 of the other sites that will potentially be involved as well. But all these sites are involved in our clinical activities. Site up in Blackpool, just show some general shots of it to show that this is very much like you'd see at a doctor's surgery. All our sites are monitored by both FDA and the American organisation, the MHRA in the UK. We have to work to the highest clinical standards. And visiting us is very much like going to really any private clinic where you'll be well looked after. We have at each site doctors, nurses, trained technicians, but all the facilities that you'd expect to have in a clinical trial as well, for clinical trials as well, I should say. A little bit about the sponsors of this study. They are a biotech company based in Copenhagen in Denmark. I've actually had dealings with them now going back 15 years or so. They're a fantastic team of researchers. They've got long experience working in the drug industry. They've taken many compounds from the bench right through to compounds that people are taking now as patients. But the interest for us in this company is their focus, which is really to try to find innovative solutions for diseases and indications where we have very much an unmet need. And clearly in vulval pain, as Winston's just alluded to, there are treatments out there, but many of them are inadequate and don't give the relief that we would hope to get. Vulvodynia, why do we actually target it when we're working with Initiator on it? It's clearly a very distressing, very painful condition. But the main reason I think that drew my attention to it really is the fact that it's such an unmet need. It's a disease which really is diagnosed almost by exclusion. People will go to the doctors with pain in the vaginal area and around the area, and quite often it's been put down as something like an inflammation or an infection. Blood tests are ordered, come back clear. And for people, it can take sometimes up to 3 or 4 years before they actually get a diagnosis. So we've got a diagnosis of exclusion, if you like, really. Once everything else has been ruled out, finally you have a diagnosis, which is actually quite scary when you consider that at some point in their lives, 10% of women globally will actually suffer from this condition after the age of 18. It's not an older person disease, it's all ages, but it's really this terrible unmet need. And the problem we have with people living with it is the consequences that many people here will obviously know about, not just the fact that it's painful, but there's emotional toil that it causes strain in relationships. And despite its high prevalence, what is being done for it? A lot of off-label treatments have been tried. As Winston indicated, there are potentially some treatments out there, but they're possibly they're not effective, or they have bad side effects. So what does it mean? Well, the first frightening thing I came across really looking into this was a statistics that was in a paper from the US that showed that nearly 40% of women with the condition actually do not go for treatment because they are so demoralized by people, their friends talking about what's happened to them, or by their early experiences, that they will not go for treatment. And even if they do, 60% of those who actually seek treatment go on to be seen by 3 or more doctors before they finally get a diagnosis. And then they're told, well, actually, there's not a lot we can do. So what we have here is clearly a very important condition that's affecting millions of people, affecting their lives, affecting their partners, affecting their families, and yet we don't have a treatment. So it's definitely an area we should be looking at. The drug that we've been working with Initiator Pharma on is a compound which is actually called pudafensine. It works on the monoamine system. In particular, it works on dopamine levels in the brain. And particularly where it works, it is replenishing dopamine levels in the brainstem and areas of the brain associated with the pain pathways. And so it's having a direct effect on the areas that you would affect, that could well be affecting why you're feeling this pain, which is very important. It's one of the first treatments we've seen which has come along as a brand new mechanism of action. And the question is, does it actually work? Well, as Winston's indicating, it takes time to prove that. Animal studies, preclinical studies do indicate that this has a powerful effect on reducing pain in the sexual encounter, and also pain in general conditions. When you take it into man, though, the first thing you have to do is to prove that it's safe and well tolerated, so we can actually see, does it work? Is it a safe and well tolerated drug? So Mac has conducted 3 studies with Initiator so far, starting off with single, very low doses and building up into higher dosing regimens, really just to try to prove whether the drug can be taken and whether it causes any unwanted effects. And to be honest, they've been very minimal. These studies do tend to reach very high doses, but in the studies that I'm going to be talking about now that we're proposing to do for vulvodynia, the doses are much lower, and really there's no significant side effects which are causing any concern at those levels, which is very important. Great that you've got a drug which is well tolerated, but so is a glass of water, so is a sugar tablet. How do you know it's actually affecting pain in humans? And that's something that Initiator and Mac have worked together on to try to test. Rather than going into patients where we could be wasting time with a compound that's not going to work, we actually did a human pain model, where you take volunteers and you induce pain for a very short period of time in them. And you do that by applying capsaicin to the skin. It's actually an intradermal injection, which on injection is very, very painful. It causes hypersensitivity, though. It causes pain, it causes hyperalgesia and allodynia, where even a soft brush stroke becomes painful. In that study, I should of course say that after about 8 hours, it's completely gone and everyone's back to normal. So you're making a healthy person a pain patient for a very short period of time. What was interesting in that study was that the doses we tested of pudafensine had as good an effect as the positive control that we used, which was, I think, pregabalin. We've also tested gabapentin in the model, which is often used in treating this condition. We were able to show significant reduction in allodynia, and that's a sensitivity to touch. But more importantly, there was also a reduction in pain as well. So that gave us indication that we were hitting the correct target. Having done that, having shown it was safe, it was hitting target, the next logical step is then to try to test it on a patient group with vulvodynia. The study we're proposing to do, we actually just started our first patients in the baseline phase actually yesterday in our Blackpool clinic. It's running in the north of England in Blackpool. It will also probably be running in our site in Manchester very shortly as well. And we're going to recruit 34 women. That's all at first. It's only a small sample. Now, why is that? First of all, we don't know which dose we should be using when we're going for bigger trials. We're also working with a very specific area. We're looking very much at provoked vulvodynia, rather than looking at sort of generalized conditions. And the reason for that, again, is because we want to test a very small group of patients very, very closely. And from that, we'll be able to extrapolate if we're getting an effect. We'll have less variability because the condition is well defined, and we'll then be able to take it on to other people. It's a very simple study that we're doing. It involves people coming for a screening visit, which will assess their medical history as other things. And then they'll come back for 4 dosing visits. One visit may be a placebo. The other visits will be at different doses of the drug that we're testing. So screening is actually quite an interesting one to do. We'll just be taking medical histories to make sure that people have the condition, but it's also a great chance to get a good MOT actually as well, because we're doing things like blood sample analysis, full physical examination, and the rest of it. So once we're assured that people are well, they're safe, and they have the condition, we'll also assess their pain. That's done in very simple ways. Unfortunately, it does involve direct measurements, and so there are 2 techniques that we'll be using. Our trained technicians will be working with the medics at the site to measure pain around the vagina, and they do this as a routine test, which involves very small, very probing of a bluntish instrument to see how much pain people feel from it. It's a very reproducible test. It's not desperately invasive, but it's I'm not going to lie, it's not the most pleasant thing to have to do and go through, but it really gives you a base mark that you can compare as you're taking the treatments, but also comparing against other volunteers as well who are taking part in this study. And we're also asking people to insert and remove a tampon and rate how painful that experience is as well. And we'll be seeing how that changes over time. People will actually get no benefit from taking part in this study, apart from helping the advancement of knowledge in this area with this molecule. And so for that reason, we are able to offer a payment to people, which is there to recompense them for the time that they're taking. And also we'll look into making sure people can get to the center very, very well. But I have to emphasize that taking part in a study like this will not give any direct benefit. Where it will give a benefit is in the next steps, where it will tell us about the dose that we should be using. Is it having an effect at reducing pain when people are probed or when they're taking the tampon in and out, which is done, by the way, I should emphasize, is actually done very privately. It's actually a home test. That's where we'll get the indication that we're actually hitting target. And then we can do a much wider study with large numbers of patients, really to explore, is this a potential solution? We have potentially a drug which has better safety profile in our studies than the treatments that are out there at the moment. And we think that mechanistically, it's also going to have a very profound effect. So we're very excited to be able to bring this to England to test. There's always sites all over the place. I'm getting Facebook adverts for it at the moment, but we are trying to recruit people onto the study. It's an exciting time, and I look forward to any questions that you may have on this particular area. Sharon, can I hand back to you for any questions?
Right, lovely. So there will be questions coming in. I have a couple of questions, but I'm wondering whether to hold on to those because someone else may ask them. Winston, I'm just going to remove the presentation so we can, and I will put the link back up later on, and there'll be a direct link going up as well so that people can go directly to the study, because that was a general link there. So stay with us. This is your chance to ask any questions you may have. Put those questions in the comments and I will keep an eye on those. So I'll keep an eye on those. Winston, what questions do you have that come to mind straight away on hearing that?
Well, the first thing that intrigued me was the fact that this compound is a monoamine reuptake inhibitor, which is a posh way of saying leaving the amines out, and this improves pain, but it also has a correlation with improvement of mental health and depression. So my curiosity was, would potential patients get a double whammy, A, pain relief, and B, an improvement in mental health? Have you seen it in the male patients with ED?
That's a great question. At this stage, when we originally did our studies, we were looking at patients who, as you say, were the males, and there was a group in that who had mild depression. That data I'm not able to comment fully on that at the moment, but there was nothing significant in there. And I think part of that is that we're talking with quite low doses of a drug which is working in very specific areas of the brain. Yes, it will potentially have an effect which is beneficial, increasing dopamine, increasing serotonergic transmission. And that's something which I think in the bigger trials we'll be able to look at more formally. The other problem we have is when we're separating issues out like this, if people are feeling a great benefit from taking, or even a mild benefit, that they can suddenly, they're feeling less sensitivity, they're more willing to re-engage in sexual practices perhaps. That may cause lifts in mood, which is that attributable to the drug, or is that attributable to the fact that their lifestyle is improving? So in the bigger trials, we will be looking really quite wide on this, looking at, are people showing benefit at all? And really, where is that coming from? And we'll get there with that, certainly. And if it does have a double whammy effect, all the better.
There's a question here from Jen. I knew someone would ask this because this is the one that I immediately thought of, because I used to have vulvodynia. So it's the first thing that sprung to mind when you were discussing the pain severity, how you would be measuring that. So Jen's question is, can you expand on the probe instrument? Are you using the Q-tip test?
It's an adaptation of that. It's actually a more sensitive instrument. It's I suppose a metal bar, if you like, which is about 0.5 centimeter wide, which is covered in a tip to protect them, and is then pressed against the areas. We're working around the entrance of the vagina at the lower end, and people have to register the pain that they're feeling. So it's effectively a pressure gauge that's been applied in that area. It's something which has been used routinely in the past, and we're using it because it's a very standardized way of applying a pressure at a certain rate and measuring when that pressure becomes intolerable. Our hope is that if people benefit, because we obviously can make no guarantees what we're in these experiments, that we'll see an improvement in terms of the amount of pressure that can be sustained and taken before it becomes painful.
Can you talk me through the tampon? Because Jen asks again something that immediately went through my head. Did you think of other things to insert other than a tampon? For example, a dilator or a finger around the clock face of the inside of the vulva?
We did. We gave this a lot of thought. The reason why we went for tampon is because, well, first of all, there's a lot of data in the literature that shows that it's a very reproducible test to do. The other thing is we're trying to reproduce something which is widely used across populations all over the world. It's a normal thing to be able to insert a tampon safely and painlessly. It's also something which there's no particular technique involved in, although we do give very strict instructions on how to do it and how the rate that you should withdraw. Other things that you could say, like a finger or whatever, there is too much variability. What we want is a test where we can stand up our data against other sites with a tampon being applied with an applicator, and it's purely for its reproducibility, but also because it's something which is normal. On our screening so far, we've spoken to a number of people who have volunteered to take part in our screening, and they've expressed that they feel tremendous pain on inserting something as simple as a tampon. They cannot do it. They will not do it. We want something which is normal for most people to be available for everybody, and it's just that was why that one was chosen. That's a good question.
Okay, good. A couple more here. This one's from Matilde. How does this mechanism meaningfully differ from antidepressants or anticonvulsants already used in vulvodynia care?
That's also a very good question. I think what we have to go for is a specificity of how this is targeting the specific areas in the brainstem and where it works. There have been studies to show where it is distributed in the brain, where it binds to, and we feel that there is differences there. It's not just affecting all systems. It's not being marketed or developed as an antidepressant because we think it has this very specific area on the pain pathways. It uses a similar mechanism, yes, but the pain is the area where I think it differentiates from other ones out there that are being used at the moment.
As this is targeting the dopamine system, is this why the side effects so far you're not seeing very many, or do you think that's because of the dosage point?
Partly it's the dosage point. I mean, as the dose goes high there, and it has done in the early studies, there can be some nausea, there can be some dizziness, which you do see with other compounds working in this area. But at the doses that we are proposing to use in this particular study, we're not expecting any significant effects. And that's really quite important, because we want this to be a treatment which can be administered at home, where people don't have to worry that they're going to have side effects like weight gain or dizziness. And you really don't want that. We want this to make this a very accessible treatment. And that will be part of the outcomes that we get to. The difficulty is, at the moment, what we're targeting is a very small group. This, if you like, is a proof of mechanism to show that we're hitting the target. Now the question is, why don't we go out there and just do the big study? Because we're confident that it's safe, we're confident that it's well tolerated. Why not just do it? And the honest answer is that the funding is not there for a study at this stage like that. It's a very expensive program to run and invest in. The amount of follow-up that's needed. So it's very important we take this step by step. It's frustrating, because we would love to get this, if it works, out there faster, but unfortunately the whole process is very slow and has to be, so that we can develop safe medicines.
I think safety is important here, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's the most important thing. One more from Mathilde before I hand back over to Winston, who I can see has got some good questions up his sleeve. So Mathilde asks, many patients don't fit neatly into provoked vulvodynia versus unprovoked. So, they can move between them over time. So why was the decision made, and you've sort of answered this, to focus specifically on provoked vulvodynia? Is that because of what you've talked about and the tests?
It was necessary to run a relatively small study. And for that reason, you want to target, if you go too wide and go for all indications, all types of vulvodynia, there would be so much noise in the data, it would be impossible to actually see that you're hitting the correct target. So we're starting off carefully with a very small group. 75% of patients with vulvodynia actually have the provoked vulvodynia, so it's not that uncommon, but there are different types, obviously. It's a step-by-step process. We will get there with all indications, we hope.
Great. Keep those questions coming in. I can see a few more questions have come in. Winston, I'm just going to hand back over to you to ask those questions you're itching to ask.
I just wanted to add one more comment to what Dr. Connell has just mentioned about why they've chosen provoked vulvodynia, and that is the drug has a very a profound effect on allodynia. And allodynia is when something pleasurable is actually painful. And provoked vulvodynia is exactly that category. So I think in terms of what patient selection, I think Dr. Connell's right. You have to try and match the benefits of the drug with the kind of subgroup of vulvodynia that may get the biggest benefit. But my question to Dr. Connell is this: I can see how it's used in male ED, erectile dysfunction. How would you see this drug being used in females once it comes on the market? Will it be a PRN when required, or will it be on a regular basis? I was just curious to understand what the trajectory of this drug is going to be in terms of use.
That is an excellent question. Again, because people have this condition, it's a chronic condition, it goes on for a long time. The question is, with erectile dysfunction, you have a definite event, if you like, that you're trying to manipulate. With this, I believe it will need to be a longer term treatment, but we need to do the study to find that out first of all. It may well be that by reducing the pain associated with vulvodynia, you actually have a long-term fixing effect, if you like, and you get some sort of reduction so that you don't need to stay on a drug like this forever. I think as one of the questions, one of the people on the questions have already pointed out, it can change over the years as well, the type of vulvodynia that you're experiencing. So it may well be that it's something which is definitely there if you're in a relationship and want to have a physical relationship and you're experiencing pain. Whether it will be a curative though, and so you can stop taking it, we're going to have to see how that goes out. I don't believe so, but we'll see.
Okay. And the other, I read through the clinical trial notes, and I was intrigued to hear that people on poppy seeds will be excluded from the trial. So immediately I saw that bizarre, for me, bizarre statement. Could you just tell me something about that?
Yeah, that's something not to be put off by at all. The problem we have is that everybody taking part in the study has a medical to show that they are healthy. We also check for alcohol abuse and drug abuse. And unfortunately, when you test for opiates, if you've had a nice lemon poppy seed cake on the way in, you'll get a false positive. So it's not for any reason other than to avoid false positive from the drug test.
Thanks very much.
It would be terrible if we had a treatment where you couldn't eat cake afterwards.
Thank you. That's all I've got for Dr. Coral at the moment.
A couple more questions here. Emma asks, how long do you anticipate for a treatment effect with this drug? Don't know.
We don't know. We know that in the short-term effect in men has been for erectile dysfunction, it actually has an effect within 2 to 3 hours of first application. But when you're talking for a longer-term treatment for a chronic pain state, I think there will be a very, and we are comparing with what we've seen with our human model of pain. I think there'll be a quick onset of action. But what matters to me is that this becomes sustained, and whether that's sustained by repeated administration of the treatment, how often that needs to be repeated, that's where the next 3 to 4 to 5 years may unfortunately be spent as we try to get to the bottom of that and get this treatment to market.
And Matilde wants to know whether this drug is being used or trialed for other chronic pain conditions.
At this stage, no. As I said, and Winston's backed up on this as well, that we think that particularly pain, allodynia is the area where this is going to work. Whether that means that in the future, other conditions where there is pain and allodynia, like postherpetic neuralgia, diabetic neuropathy, it's not been looked at yet, but there are treatments out there for it, and it's a stepwise, it's baby steps. We're getting there, but I think for the moment we're targeting a condition where there is nothing as an alternative. I think that's quite important. It's probably will keep us focused for a while.
Okay. Can I ask, what if people have comorbidities? Will you still be able to take them on?
At the moment, for this trial, there are certain restrictions because we're trying to get a very small group to prove concept. Later, as we move into the patient populations, we obviously will be working across many age groups. They will have other comorbidities. Then that will then need to be taken into account. What is positive is that what we've seen so far in the clinical testing is that this drug has very low drug-drug interaction. So you happen to be on treatment for other conditions, it's unlikely that there'll be an interaction between the two treatments, which is important. But as we develop the knowledge on the drug, we'll certainly get to a conclusion on that.
Yeah. In terms of risks or potentially making symptoms worse, is that a possibility?
There is nothing guaranteed, but we believe that there is no evidence at the moment that taking part in this sort of testing, having provoked vulvodynia, if you like, from the Wagner testing or even the tampon insertion is going to cause a long-term problem. Nothing is being done which is out of the ordinary.
So there's a question from Nikki. What are the next steps in terms of when you might expect this drug to be on the market?
Well, step one, I need to find 34 people to take part in a trial in Blackpool. That we're hoping to complete by the summer, and we'll get the readout on that study probably September, October time. In parallel with that, we'll be writing protocols, assuming success, for much larger studies, looking at wider patient groups, looking at people with comorbidities, looking at the population that will be taking this drug in natural situations. That's where that development will come from. Now, unfortunately, that will be something like a probably 400 to 600 patient trial. That will take 2 to 3 years. At the moment, I fear that we may be about 5 to 6 years away from getting to clinic. But it's moving in the right direction.
Absolutely. We haven't had anything like this. Well, I mean, I'm thinking to vulvodynia, my symptoms back then started in 1998. There's been nothing really since then. We're talking 28 years, and I've not seen anything quite this exciting or promising since then. So, 5, 6 years may seem like a long time, but actually, in terms of medications, it's worth going through those stages. I will put the link up, so
I would say that even though it's 5 to 6 years, keep an eye out, because when these trials start, these are going to be big trials. We'll be looking for lots of people. Yes. Usually with these trials, there will be the possibility as well of taking this further if it's actually proven to be working for people. So hopefully we'll reach some people sooner than 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Another question here. Don't know your name. You've got a lovely at L14-S20.
And that is a great question as well.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Does this particular medication reduce someone's experience of pain throughout their body and not just one focal area? How am I pronouncing this? Pudafensine? No, I can't say it. I will get my tongue on that. Is it a type of stimulant in the way that it works?
No, I won't describe it as a stimulant, but yes, it will have an effect on other pains as well, because we've seen from our work with healthy volunteers that when they're injected with the capsaicin, they experience less pain in their arm. It will be affecting the brain. It will reduce pain signals to the brain, but not in a way that we need to be concerned about. I'm not saying that it will mean that when we drink a cup of tea, we burn our mouth, we don't recognize it's hot. It will purely be in the same way that the drugs that are out there at the moment, like gabapentin and pregabalin, actually working anyway, that if you break your leg, it will still hurt. If you have a child, it will still hurt, but hopefully other pains will be reduced.
So for people, let's say people on the study notice a positive effect, will they be able to stay on it?
Sadly, not at this stage, no. We don't have the safety data or the availability yet to be able to do that. Yeah. But what they can certainly do is keep in contact, so that for the follow-up studies, and we can then loop them in as well when we see that the drug is getting closer to market.
Brilliant. Good. Winston, any more questions there?
No, I think the answer I got about the PRN or regular dosing fits in with the fact whether it's immediate release or extended release. So I think we just got to be patient and wait for this proof of concept trial works and move on to a bigger thing. And I wish you all the very best, because it's a potentially a novel drug in this field. So we're pleased that the Vulval Pain Society are able to help recruit patients for your trial.
Well, I hope that you'll invite me back in about 6 months' time, and I'm happy to report on the, I hope, full success or what next steps are, and I'll let you know how we're doing with it, definitely.
Yeah, we look forward to that.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
We love updates. Yeah. Okay, so I will put the link up. Now, I noticed that there is compensation for this and travel costs. Can you just go over those, John?
Yeah, I think it's important because there's no direct benefit from taking part in a trial other than immediate on that one day. we are able to compensate people for the time. So the amount of payment is about £1,700, which is set by the MHRA and by ethical approved board who look at it, and for basically giving up the time to travel to the site and take part. It's compensating for loss of earnings, that sort of thing. It's certainly not compensating for any risk or any procedures that people are taking part in. And if you are concerned about the fact that it's quite a way in the north, in the north of England, up in Blackpool, we've had people from Oxford, even down I think in Bristol, actually interested in taking part. Contact the team and they will work with you to see whether we can help in any way. We have somebody stay overnight. There's lots of hotels and guest houses in Blackpool, and apart from in the winter time, it's a lovely place to visit, I'm told. That's my Blackpool Tourist Board bit outdone.
I will be dropping the direct link into the comments very shortly. And just to say, look, if you've joined us late, you can rewatch this live stream on our Facebook events page, or find this replay and a whole bunch of replays, over 50 now, on our YouTube channel. We have covered a lot, so do check them out. Let me just see if something else has come in. Yes, so there's a comment here. It sounds like a really interesting medication. Thank you. I would love to try it, but I have the Interstim. And Max said this discounts me. Really quick call with them to talk through if you could join the study. Well, that's good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So if you're not certain whether you'd be eligible, give them a quick ring and you'll find out.
Yeah. And it may well be that for future studies, which hopefully will be not too far away, that then they may be able to take part in that as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Lots of thank yous coming in, which is nice, and people looking forward to updates. Stay with us, because just after we say goodbye, the end screen will have all the details you need for the study, because whether this is appropriate for you, or if you're a clinician watching and you're thinking it might be appropriate for a patient, you will need those direct details rather than faffing around with the website and trying to find where it is. So I am going to be sharing that. So on that note, please note that we have a .uk after our website and email address. So if you want resources on vulval pain, we're vulvalpainsociety.org.uk. And if you want to reach out, then we're info@vulvalpainsociety.org.uk. We are a small team, so we may not be able to respond as quickly as we'd like. We all work or involved in some sort of way in the area of persistent pain and pelvic pain. So please be patient, but we will come back to you. Keep an eye on our social media pages for information, updates. We're mainly on Instagram and Facebook these days. We may add in a few others. We know the ones that no longer work for us. So Instagram and Facebook is where we're hanging out. Listen, when you like and share our posts, it really helps us help more people. It helps us get our resources and more information and messages out to more of the people who need it most, the people living with vulval pain and the wonderful people who choose to serve people living with vulval pain. So we really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. So keep an eye on our socials for the next live stream. Thank you again to Dr. John Connell. Any final words?
No, I just really appreciate everyone's time and attention. Some really good questions coming in there, and
yeah,
thank you for those.
Yeah, and there may be more questions coming in the replay as well. So perhaps you or one of your colleagues can hop on Facebook. We'll let you know if there's more questions coming in that perhaps you can hop on and answer at that point. And thank you, Winston.
You're welcome. It's been a great evening, and I look forward to the second session later this year.
Right, absolutely. I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you so much for being with us live or on the replay. The link to the trial is in the comments now. So it's coming in within a few seconds. You'll see it. And you will also see it on the end screen together with a QR code if that's easier for you. So it's goodbye from us.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
And I'm going to kick us all out of the studio so people can see the QR code and link. Cheerio for now. See you next time.
Bye-bye.